While on a solo adventure, Keanu Reeves gets lost in a remote wilderness and stumbles upon a mysterious pack of wild dogs. Instead of attacking him, the pack guides him deeper into the forest, leading him to the ruins of an ancient lost civilization. As he uncovers the truth, he realizes these dogs are not ordinary. They are guardians of a forgotten past. At the heart of the ruins, Keanu faces a choice: reveal the truth to the world or leave the secret buried forever. Choosing to protect it, he gains the pack's trust and emerges forever changed. What do you think about this thrilling mystery? Where are you watching from? Comment below. Subscribe to DG Story for more incredible adventures that will take you beyond imagination. The sun hung low over the horizon, casting long golden streaks across the rugged landscape. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. Keanu Reeves pulled his jacket tighter around his frame as he made his way through the dense foliage, his boots crunching softly against the underbrush. What had started as a simple morning hike had spiraled into something else entirely. Keanu had ventured into the wilderness alone, seeking solitude, an escape from the flashing cameras and relentless noise of the world he knew. But in his attempt to lose himself in nature, he had truly become lost. For hours, he had wandered, hoping to stumble upon the main trail, his phone useless now, with no signal and a rapidly draining battery, offered no salvation. He was alone, or so he thought. A twig snapped somewhere in the distance. Keanu froze. His heartbeat quickened as his eyes scanned the thick forest around him. The sun had dipped lower now, and the trees cast eerie shadows across the ground. Then, he heard it, a low, guttural growl. Keanu turned sharply. First, he saw nothing, just trees, rocks, the silent vastness of the wild. Then a flicker of movement. A pair of golden eyes gleamed from the darkness. Then another, and another. Keanu's breath caught in his throat. Pack of dogs. Not just strays. These were wild, feral creatures, born and raised in the untamed world of the forest. The leader stepped forward first, a large, black-furred dog with piercing yellow eyes. His body was lean, his muscles tensed beneath a thick coat of fur. The rest of the pack followed his lead, fanning out in a silent formation, surrounding Keanu from all sides. Keanu slowly raised his hands, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. "Easy, fellas," he murmured. His voice was calm, but his heart pounded in his chest. The black dog tilted his head, watching Keanu intently. His expression wasn't aggressive, it was calculating. Keanu had been around dogs his whole life. He knew that fear could trigger an attack. He couldn't run. He couldn't fight. So instead, he waited. The seconds stretched. Then the leader stepped closer. Keanu held his breath. The black dog sniffed the air, his nose twitching. He took another step forward, then another, until he was just inches away from Keanu. Keanu could feel the warmth of the animal's breath against his skin. Then the dog turned away. He let out a sharp exhale through his nose, a sound that was almost dismissive. The rest of the pack followed suit. Not a single growl, not a single attack. Keanu frowned. What had just happened? It was as if they had tested him, and he had passed. As the last sliver of daylight faded behind the mountains, the pack began to move. Keanu took a hesitant step, watching as the dogs padded forward, disappearing between the trees. Then he saw it. The black dog had stopped. He turned his head slightly, just enough to glance back at Keanu. Keanu's breath caught. They wanted him to follow. For a long moment, he hesitated. He could try to find his way back alone. He could risk wandering deeper into the unknown. Or he could trust them. His gut told him what he already knew. He took a step forward, and the pack led the way. Keanu followed the silent procession of dogs, their bodies moving like shadows between the towering trees. The air grew cooler as the last traces of sunlight faded, leaving the forest bathed in an eerie twilight. His instinct screamed that this was madness, following a pack of wild dogs, deeper into unfamiliar terrain, with no guarantee they wouldn't turn on him. But something about the way they moved, graceful, controlled, almost purposeful, kept him from stopping. They weren't acting like random scavengers. They had a plan. And for some reason, they had invited him to be a part of it. The black dog led the pack, always a few steps ahead. His massive frame moved with quiet authority, his piercing golden eyes flicking back to Keanu every so often. Keanu realized something. They were testing him. When the trail became rocky, the dogs navigated with ease. Keanu had to keep up. When the path narrowed, forcing them into a single-file line, the dogs waited their turn. When they stopped to drink from a small stream, Keanu mimicked them, cupping his hands to scoop the cold, clear water into his mouth. Every time he followed their lead, the black dog acknowledged him. A brief glance, a flick of the ear. It was subtle, but Keanu knew he was being judged, and he was passing. The pack suddenly halted near a cluster of boulders. The air shifted, something was wrong. The black dog raised his head, sniffing the wind. The others followed suit, ears twitching, bodies tense. Keanu felt it too. A presence, something watching them. Then, a low growl echoed from the darkness. Keanu's blood ran cold. Through the shadows, he saw a pair of glowing red eyes. Then another, and another. Wolves. Not a pack. Rogues. Hungry. Dangerous. Keanu tensed. Would the dogs run? Fight? Then the black dog moved. He let out a deep, commanding bark, stepping forward. To Keanu's shock, the wolves hesitated. They didn't attack. They were afraid. The black dog stood his ground. His pack didn't flinch. This wasn't just any wild dog. He was a king, and the wolves knew it. After a tense few seconds, the rogues backed away, slipping into the shadows. Keanu exhaled, barely realizing he had been holding his breath. He turned to the black dog, who locked eyes with him once again. For the first time, Keanu understood. This wasn't just a pack of strays. They were something more, and he had just become part of their world. The pack continued their journey, but Keanu's mind raced. Who were these dogs? Why did the wolves fear them? What had he stumbled into? And more importantly, where were they taking him? Part 3, The Path of the Pack. Keanu followed the pack deeper into the wilderness, his boots crunching softly against the damp forest floor. The encounter with the wolves still lingered in his mind. They had backed down, not out of fear of numbers, but because of the black dog. This wasn't just a random pack of strays. They were something else, something older, something powerful. For hours, they moved through the night, weaving between trees, across streams, and over rugged terrain. Keanu noticed something strange. They never stopped. No resting, no hesitation. They moved with purpose. But where were they going? The black dog, the leader, glanced back at Keanu occasionally, checking to see if he was still there. Keanu didn't slow down. He was beginning to understand. If he wanted to stay, he had to keep up. This was another test. By the time the first hints of dawn touched the sky, the forest opened up into a vast, hidden valley. Keanu stopped in his tracks, his breath catching. Before him was something he had never expected. Ancient stone ruins lay scattered among the towering trees, pillars, carved walls, symbols etched into the rocks, the remains of what must have been a civilization lost to time. And the pack? They belonged here. The black dog padded forward, leading them past a massive stone archway, half buried by vines. The carvings on the stone were familiar. Keanu had seen similar patterns on the black dog's fur. This place, it was connected to them. Keanu's mind raced. Could this be why the pack was so different? Why the wolves feared them? Had they been guarding this place for generations? He reached out, brushing his fingers across one of the symbols. The moment he touched it, a deep growl rumbled behind him. Keanu turned just in time to see the black dog standing atop a stone platform, staring at him, not with aggression, but with expectation, like he had been waiting for Keanu to find this place. And then it hit him. He hadn't just stumbled upon the pack. They had led him here on purpose. But why? Keanu's pulse quickened. He was about to find out. Keanu stood frozen before the ancient stone ruins, the air thick with a strange energy. The black dog, the pack's leader, watched him from atop the moss-covered platform, its golden eyes piercing in the early morning light. Keanu's pulse pounded. This wasn't just a pack of stray dogs. They had led him here for a reason. Keanu ran his fingers over the etched carvings on the ancient stones. The symbols were intricate, spiraling into patterns that seemed both natural and deliberate. Somewhere deep in his gut, he felt something, an instinct, a pull toward these markings. Then he saw it, a symbol, half buried under moss, that looked exactly like the black dog's marking on his fur. Keanu turned back to the leader, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is your home, isn't it?" The dog tilted its head, as if acknowledging his words. It understood. The rest of the pack had gathered in a wide circle around the ruins. They weren't moving. They were waiting. Keanu swallowed hard. Had they been guarding this place all along? How long had they been here? Were they the descendants of something ancient, something lost to time? Keanu took a step forward. The black dog let out a deep, resonating bark, and then the earth trembled. Keanu stumbled slightly as a vibration pulsed through the stone beneath his feet. It wasn't an earthquake. It felt like something waking up. The markings on the stone glowed faintly, pulsing with an eerie light. Keanu's breath hitched. This wasn't just a ruin. It was a key. And the dogs? They were its protectors. Keanu turned back to the black dog. "You brought me here. But why?" The leader held his gaze, then lifted his head toward the sky and howled. The sound echoed through the valley, deep and powerful. And from deep within the ruins, something answered. A low, distant howl, one that didn't belong to this pack. Something old, something waiting. Keanu clenched his fists. He wasn't just lost anymore. He had stepped into a mystery far bigger than himself. And whatever was coming next, the pack was ready for it. The howl from the ruins echoed through the valley, a deep and ancient sound that sent a shiver down Keanu's spine. The pack remained still, their ears pricked, eyes locked onto the source of the sound. The black dog, the leader, stood on the stone platform, his golden gaze fixed ahead, as if expecting something to emerge. Keanu's breathing slowed. He could feel it now, the energy in the air, the weight of something beyond comprehension. Something was waking up. Without hesitation, the black dog moved forward, stepping toward a large stone slab embedded in the ground. The carvings on its surface were glowing faintly, pulsing with a soft golden hue. Keanu followed, his hands hovering over the engravings. He didn't know how, but he understood them. They weren't just random symbols. They told a story of a lost civilization, a story of dogs not just as companions, but as guardians. These weren't ordinary animals. They were protectors. And now, Keanu had been chosen to stand among them. The black dog stared at Keanu, then lowered its head toward the stone slab, pressing its nose gently against the carvings. A soft rumbling sound echoed through the ruins. And then, the slab moved. Keanu stumbled back as the ground shifted beneath him. The stone slid away, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness. The pack didn't move. They were waiting. Keanu's heart pounded. Was this what they had brought him here for? A test? A discovery? The black dog turned, locking eyes with him. This was it. A moment of trust. A moment of choice. Keanu inhaled deeply. Then, he stepped forward, descending into the unknown. The black dog followed, and one by one, the pack disappeared into the darkness below. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The walls were lined with carvings, glowing faintly, depicting humans and dogs together, not as owners and pets, but as equals. Keanu traced his fingers over one of the images. It showed a man standing beside a great black dog, much like the one leading him now. His pulse raced. Had this happened before? Had someone else walked this path centuries ago? Before he could process the thought, the black dog let out a soft growl. Keanu turned. Ahead of them, at the very bottom of the staircase, was a massive stone door, and carved into its surface, a symbol identical to the black dog's markings. Keanu swallowed. This wasn't just history, this was destiny, and he was about to uncover the truth hidden beneath the earth. Keanu stood before the massive stone door, his breath steady but his heart pounding. The air in the underground chamber was thick, not with dust, but with something older, something alive. The black dog stepped forward, pressing its nose against the center of the carved symbol. A deep rumbling vibrated through the ground. Keanu stepped back as ancient gears, unseen for centuries, began to shift. Then the door slowly creaked open. Beyond it lay darkness. But Keanu knew one thing: there was no turning back now. The pack moved forward first, disappearing into the shadows beyond the doorway. The black dog turned back briefly, waiting for Keanu to follow. Keanu exhaled, steeling himself, then stepped inside. As soon as he did, torches along the walls ignited one by one, bathing the chamber in a flickering golden light. What he saw took his breath away. The chamber wasn't just a cave. It was a forgotten city. Massive stone pillars stretched toward the ceiling, their surfaces covered in ancient inscriptions and depictions of humans standing alongside large, noble-looking dogs. Keanu ran his fingers over one of the carvings. It showed a man kneeling before a black dog, not as a master, but as an equal. His mind raced. This place wasn't just a tomb. It was a sanctuary. The black dog let out a low bark, and Keanu turned. At the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal, upon which rested a large, weathered tablet covered in ancient script. Keanu stepped closer, brushing off the dust, and as he read the words, his entire world shifted. The translation: "We are the last of the guardians. Before the great fall, man and beast walked as one, bound by honor, bound by trust. But man forgot, and we remained. Those who find this place must choose to remember or to turn away." Keanu clenched his fists. This wasn't just a lost civilization. It was a warning, a truth long buried beneath time. And now, it was in his hands. Keanu turned to the black dog, who watched him with knowing eyes. This had never been about survival. It had been about trust, about remembrance, about choosing to understand what was lost. And now, Keanu had to decide: would he keep this secret, or would he share it with the world? The black dog let out a soft growl, as if it already knew the answer. Keanu exhaled. Then, with steady hands, he reached for the tablet. And as he lifted it from the pedestal, the entire chamber began to tremble. The entire chamber trembled as Keanu lifted the ancient tablet from the pedestal. Dust rained down from the towering stone pillars, and the air seemed to vibrate with unseen energy. The black dog tensed, its ears flicking as it turned toward the shadows. The rest of the pack formed a protective circle around Keanu, their bodies rigid, their eyes scanning the darkness. Something had been awakened, and it was watching them. Keanu took a step back, gripping the heavy stone tablet tightly. The carvings on its surface glowed faintly, as if reacting to his touch. Then, a voice echoed through the chamber, not a sound from the living, but a deep, resonant whisper carried by the walls themselves. "You were not meant to find this." Keanu's breath caught. His heart pounded as the words faded into the air. Was it a warning, a test, or something else entirely? The torches flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows across the chamber walls. And then movement. From the far end of the room, in the depths of the darkness, something stepped forward. Keanu tensed. It wasn't human. It wasn't a dog. It was something in between. A massive figure emerged, a creature twice the size of any wolf, with fur as dark as the void. Its eyes, however, burned with a strange intelligence, almost human-like. Keanu instinctively took a step back, but the black dog beside him did not. Instead, the pack leader stepped forward, standing tall, unwavering, The two locked eyes, and Keanu understood. This wasn't a battle. This was recognition, a meeting between the old and the new. The massive creature, the keeper, tilted its head slightly, his piercing gaze falling on Keanu. Then, slowly, it lowered its head, exhaling deeply. It was not here to fight. It was here to judge. Keanu's grip on the tablet tightened. He had been chosen to uncover the truth. But was he worthy of carrying it? The black dog let out a low growl, then turned to Keanu. It was his decision now. The ruins had given him their secrets. The guardians had accepted him. But what came next was up to him. Keanu took a deep breath, and he made his choice. The ruins stood in silence, the massive keeper watching Keanu with its glowing, ancient eyes. The air was thick with an unspoken challenge, a test of will, of purpose, of worth. The black dog, the leader of the pack, had already accepted him. But the true decision was Keanu's alone. Would he take this lost knowledge back to the world? Or would he leave it buried, as it had been for centuries? The keeper took a slow, deliberate step forward. The ground trembled beneath its weight. Then a whisper. You hold the past in your hands, but knowledge is a burden, a gift, a curse. Keanu's fingers tightened around the ancient tablet. This wasn't just about him. It was about what this place represented. The pack, the ruins, the lost civilization that had once stood side by side with their canine guardians. If the world found out, would it honor this past or exploit it? Keanu knelt, lowering the tablet until it rested on the stone pedestal once more. He wasn't here to steal history. He was here to remember it. The keeper watched. Then it nodded. The torches lining the walls flared brighter, as if the ruins themselves had accepted his choice. The black dog stepped beside Keanu, his gaze never leaving the keeper. Keanu exhaled. They understood each other now. And the ruins? They would remain a secret. As Keanu stood, the black dog turned, leading the way back toward the stone staircase. The rest of the pack followed. Keanu took one last look at the carvings, the symbols, the forgotten past. Then, without another word, he followed them into the light. The ruins rumbled softly behind him, sealing their secrets for eternity. By the time Keanu and the pack emerged from the underground sanctuary, dawn had broken across the valley. The world felt different, not because it had changed, but because he had. The black dog stood beside him, gazing over the vast wilderness. Keanu smiled. So what now, buddy? The dog huffed, as if amused by the question. Keanu chuckled. He knew the answer. This wasn't the end of his journey. It was only the beginning. And as the pack vanished into the forest, Keanu took one last look at the hidden valley, then turned and walked away. Some secrets, after all, are meant to be kept.